Okay, so in this video, I feel like discussing foreign settlement for work and perhaps when someone has to travel for work. One of the key indicators that helps determine foreign settlement, we look for the 12 house placements and the 12 house lord or the 12 house ruler, simply because the 12 house represents foreign lands. You see people use the word foreign lands a lot, but they don't describe what foreign lands truly represents. From my research and studying, the 12 hosts represents different countries outside of the country you were born in. Or let's say you were born in the USA. The 12 hosts could represent different USA states. So it's not always different countries or particularly overseas. You could be born in England and the, the 12 hosts could represent Ireland or Scotland. Whereas the ninth host represents long distance traveling, whether it's via plane, train, etc. But the ninth house traveling is short term. It's for like 2 weeks. It's also for vacation travels. And the ninth house traveling could also relate to when someone has to travel for college education as well. Both the 12 and the ninth house could relate to when someone has to travel for college education. Like when someone has to live on a dorm. So they go to a different USA state and they actually live on the college campus. That type of traveling. Another thing is the ninth house could explain your experiences with traveling, how frequently you travel. So when there are certain planets in the third or the ninth house, or when you have, let's say, certain house rulers or certain house lords connected to the ninth house, it could explain the reason that you are traveling. For example, if you have the sixth lord going into the ninth house, then this could explain you're just simply traveling for a job, and that travel may not even be long term. Now, for work or even jobs, it's pretty simple. You have to look at the 10th house because the 10th house represents our work environments. So you could be doing any work. You could be an entrepreneur. You could be self-employed. It doesn't matter. The 10th house describes where you work, how you do work, how you perform the work, and it also shows what takes place in your work surroundings. Essentially, the 10th house has to do a lot with the work setting. Basically, the 10th house refers to what type of work that you do in this lifetime. Hence why it relates a lot to career. The 10th house could even help determine what type of work that you do for jobs as well, or what is taking place on your jobs even. Why is that? Is because the 10th house represents your bosses and your superiors at work. So the relationship you have with your bosses at work will obviously influence your work environments, even job environments. And career isn't just one thing. A career is an entire journey. So the 10th house could be even your career path, sort of. The 10th house is also like your resume. So the types of jobs that you'll have in your career time period will obviously still fall under the 10th house. Whereas the 6th house represents jobs. And it could be obviously self-employment, entrepreneurship, because those are jobs but just different types. The 6th house will help determine how you perform on the jobs, those 9 to 5s. But the 6th house is more so for how you interact with coworkers, especially when on a job, obviously. The Sitos will describe what types of jobs you would have in this lifetime. Even Kim Kardashian, you know, people like her, they're entrepreneurs, but they still have to take on jobs as well. Certain tasks, and they have to work for an employer. Those billionaires, even millionaires, they still have to do jobs as well, just not on the same threshold as a normal individual would. So, for example, an actor has to take an acting gig. So that's a job because they're working for producers, directors, a directing company, or whatever type company they have that hosting the acting gig. I remembered one time for WWE there was a WrestleMania pay per view, and the theme for it was Battle of the Billionaires. This when Donald Trump was on WWE. So let's say he got paid for that WWE gig, whether he was an independent contractor or not. It was still a job simply because he was working under Vince McMahon's company. So that would make Vince McMahon his boss, since he would be adhering to Vince McMahon's company's rules, unless Donald Trump had ownership in the company at the time. People think scenarios like that are just business partnerships, but not exactly. So let's start with the 10th house. When I'm looking at the 10th house that represents work environments, I'm looking for the 10th house lord or the 10th house ruler. And when the 10th house ruler or the 10th house lord, in this case scenario, in Joe Jonas's chart, you see there's a Gemini sign. So I'm looking for Mercury now. Things of the 10th house go into the 12th house. So this means a person's work environment becomes about what? This could be many different things, but one of the most casual reasons could be a person has to travel for work, and this travel tends to be way longer than any sort of vacation type of travel. This is like a legit foreign settlement placement where, for military people, for example, they they have to like be stationed overseas in different USA states outside of the one they were born in. So that's an example. Another example could be you not actually even traveling anywhere. It could just simply mean that you do work outside of the USA states or countries you were born in simply because you already traveled probably years prior. So now when you do have work and you do have jobs or whatever, it's taking place in different countries simply because you moved when you were young or something. It may not even indicate working overseas or different USA states than the one you were born in. This placement could indicate something like a person that has to work in solitude, meaning they work alone, work in confined places. I think the 12 O's relates to office type of jobs as well. People that work for cruise ship companies, people that work for maritime industry, those fishermen you always see on the boat that go to Antarctica, stuff like that for long periods of time, they could have something where their tent lord is in the 12th house, and vice versa. So if you have the 12th lord in the 10th house, when things of the 12th house go into the 10th house, then it's the same result because it's showing that the 12 host places become a part of your work environment. So it's the same effect. When your sixth lord goes into the 12 hosts, it's the same effect as what I just previously mentioned, but it puts more emphasis on the types of jobs that you would be doing. So that could show a person that gets a job and then their job requires for them to travel overseas, travel to a different state, and live there for some time. Additionally, it could be it could be a situation where you move. Let's say you were born in New York City and you moved to Florida when you were 6 years old and you lived in Florida your entire life. So obviously now you need a job, and then boom, your job is in Florida because that's where you live. So that would still count as foreign settlement. Or it could be an instance where you move to a different USA state tomorrow, and then you're gonna have to look for a job, right? So you end up getting one in that new state. That, that's another example of what the sixth lord in the 12th house would cause. Same exact scenario if the 12th lord is in the sixth house, because now your jobs are in foreign lands. So if you're a person that has a hard time getting a job, then maybe the placement in your chart, maybe you have a placement like this in your chart, and you won't get that particular job until you move someplace else. And then when this placement becomes activated, boom, that's when it happens. Now, another example of foreign settlement for jobs is, and this may not be foreign settlement, it may just be the job requiring for you to travel frequently, or perhaps travel for a short time period. So for example, if you look at LeBron James's sidereal chart and you see that his sixth lord, which is Mars, goes into the ninth house. As we all know, he's an NBA player, and basketball players for the NBA, they tend to travel very frequently, whether it's by airplane, bus, train. They're going on these long distances traveling, and they go through it a lot, but they're never really stationary with their traveling. They're always on the go, simply because their jobs or their job tasks require for them to do so. This is why someone that has the sixth lord in the ninth house would have jobs that are related to traveling. People that perhaps work in airports, people that may end up becoming pilots, people that have jobs as flight attendants, stuff like that. People that have the 10th lord in the ninth house would have a similar effect, because something may abrupt in their work environments where they are required to travel. And this type of traveling isn't exactly, I don't think it's long term. No, it's just maybe like 2 weeks, stuff like that. Obviously, the reverse effect can occur if the ninth lord is in the sixth house, or if the ninth lord is in the 10th house. Now, what's important in determining if these placements, especially when they get activated, if they determine that you will travel for work or not, all comes down to the timing of it. Because the timing, when you use timing in astrology, especially with the help of transits, you would know, okay, this time period, this placement is activated, so let's see if the transits show traveling. And then we test out that date, boom, we wait and see. Because these placements don't always guarantee traveling in the time periods that they are activated. And these placements could work for both the tropical and the sidereal chart, but it's way easier to predict when it happens with the sidereal chart. Anyways, follow me on the other apps. There will be more videos to come.